Welcome everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live today. My name is Elise Portolata with the Emerging Enterprise Center, a nonprofit small business incubator in Wilmington, Delaware. And I'm joined with our Director of Development, Bob Beekner. And we're really excited today because we really feel like every entrepreneur has a story. And from that story, people can really learn about themselves and their own businesses. So we're talking today with founder and CEO Zach Phillips of Short Order Production House about how this Syracuse by way of Atlanta designer, coder, photographer, writer, filmmaker, and transplant started his creative company, which is now over 1,500 square feet in Wilmington, Delaware, has 1 million in state-of-the-art production equipment, 9 editing suites, and a very hip small office in South Philadelphia. So welcome.
And I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be this guy, but it is 15,000 square feet. 1,500 just doesn't sound very good. Yeah, but yeah, no, that's fine.
It's so great. And actually this is, Zach actually owns one of the largest video production houses in Delaware, which is congratulations, that's a big deal. So we want to just talk to you a little bit about your startup story, your entrepreneurial journey. And first, thank you for coming and chatting with us today here at the Emerging Enterprise Center. So to kind of just start this conversation really quickly is just to jump into our first question.
Just really quick before you do that, I just wanted to acknowledge the irony of the fact that I'm going to be giving a little talk this week on doing things really professionally from home. And my really professional setup at home is out in the garage. I'm actually at my in-laws right now. I have like a temporary setup. We've moved out of the city into the country for the time being. And my wife's call today, she's an event planner, and her call was determined to be more important than this one. Not more important than the one where I'm actually teaching about this, but more important than this one. So I'm in my bedroom, the guest room that I'm staying in. So welcome to the guest room.
Just shows the best laid plans of mice and men, right, Zach?
That's right. I could have been on my fancy, anyway.
And the event that Zach is chatting about will also be hosted by the Emerging Enterprise Center, and it's a webinar we're hosting about video production. And we're hoping that everyone who's on the call today tunes until the end, where I'll be sharing a really great promotional code with those who are watching, for those who want to join us on Wednesday to learn how to produce, in-house literally videos and great virtual events that are engaging and worth watching. So to first start us off, I just want to say, every entrepreneur starts with an idea. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, what is that, when you started your idea of starting a video production company, what was it that helped you decide this is worth pursuing, this idea was worth really pursuing?
It's so funny because I think my problem as an entrepreneur is that I have too many ideas, and there's too many things that I want to pursue at any one time, and that's actually been a big problem for me in my life, lack of focus. And a video production company just kind of came about as the result of clients showing up asking me to do things, and then I did them, and then suddenly I needed some help, and before I knew it, I was doing performance reviews and hiring consultants. So it's funny, making a video client services video production company was not kind of one of my main ideas. It's always been a means to greater ends, so to speak, and that we want to create original stuff. We want to make a feature film. I mean, these are all things that we still want to do. And this is a way to offer the creativity that we have and the ideas that we have that I think a lot of people don't have access to, particularly in the state of Delaware. And that was how did we know that this was going to work, was when all of a sudden it was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of work here. It's just all going out of state. I think we should probably be able to keep some of this in state. And And my own personal opinion about Delaware is, if you know, a lot of people say, well, the market's small, or that's not my experience. The market's not small. The market is high end. Like, it's high end or nothing. Like, if you do something kind of halfway in Delaware, I think it doesn't work. And then people assume, oh, well, I shouldn't have even gone halfway. Whereas the reality is, if you go all the way, then it will work in Delaware. That's been my experience. So that's what we try to do. We try to be a really high end video production house. Even though we're in this small market, it's not that small.
That's very, well, and this actually kind of leads me a little bit more to my next question. And this was where you're saying you have like all these great ideas, and you've always wanted to do a bunch of different things, and this is a very creative outlet. You know, what was your why behind, starting your own business?
I'm a very bad employee. I don't know. I can say my why for this business is that I think there's an assumption made about video production, particularly in the corporate world, that it's okay to be kind of safe and boring. And those two things, in my opinion, are opposite when it comes to video. If it's boring, it's not safe. It's actually just a waste of your money, because nobody's going to watch it. And making things that are interesting is a lot better use of everyone's time. And it's a little kind of scary and uncomfortable for people sometimes to go in that direction. But in my opinion, that's what you have to do. You have to try to come up with what's the interest. And there are a number of ingredients, so to speak, that we know make for interesting, engaging things to watch. And our why is to always kind of be pushing our customers toward that, so that they really get value out of this pretty expensive thing to do. We want to make, so I'm much more likely to turn down work or to kind of push back against my customer until I'm kind of being annoying, because I want them to do something better. And I think that's the main thing. That I think the reason, and this may be something you're going to ask in the future here, but I think the reason we've been successful is because we care about the quality of what we're doing for our customers more than they do. And we'll always care more than they do, because it reflects a lot more on us than it does on them. And we know how to do this. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good enough why.
No, that's a good why. And I actually am looking forward to hearing more about those ingredients of really what makes a video, worth watching and engaging, and, that extra something that keeps people's attention in our upcoming webinar on Wednesday. So going, I think me and Bob and I at the Emerging Enterprise Center, something we hear a lot from entrepreneurs is funding concerns. And I wanted to know, I personally, I don't know did you bootstrap your company, or did you actually go seek outside funding? How did you guys go about starting your company?
So I started the company without any funding. Early on in the company, we ended up getting this one really big job that we were totally unqualified for. I mean, we did a good job on it. We ended up winning an award for what we did, but there was no reason to believe that we could do this job, and we were missing a lot of the stuff that we needed to really do it the right way. So I did take some family investment at that point, and it ended up being worthwhile. But I will say, on that funding side of business, obviously every business is totally different. And I think, well, I have all kinds of opinions on that probably are irrelevant, but I think that right now access to funding for business is very, very limited, and it's usually focused on people who already have achieved something, and it's not really for people who are just starting out, in my experience. So
Well, you kind of seem, from my just our conversation here, you seem pretty laid back in the sense of like kind of how you go about your business. However, every entrepreneur kind of has those overwhelming moments, right? If something, either cash flow or project change or competitors, um, is there, how did you handle those feelings of like maybe overwhelm when you first started out, or even now as you're growing? Is there anything you did to help with that?
yeah, like I said earlier, I didn't, all of the skills that I've had to learn to operate this business, 90% of them were not things that I was intending to ever have to learn. And I think that's important to note, is that I went into this because I am a writer and a filmmaker, and I can make, I can make something fun and interesting, and or make something that make people cry or whatever. And that's what I'm good at. I'm not good at managing people. Naturally, I'm not good at understanding complex systems and seeing them all at once and seeing where bottlenecks are. The thing I had to learn, and it took me way too long to learn, were what my own weaknesses are, and how to actually improve on the management side of my weaknesses enough to be able to actually invite in people who have those skills naturally, rather than trying to force myself. I mean, there were a lot of time was spent where I was trying to force a square peg into a round hole, in terms of force my brain into the brain of like a operations person, or into being a finance person. And that's just not me. And I'm not good at it. I don't think that way. Even if I learned all the facts, even if I took whole college courses, I still wouldn't be that mind. I'm good at like, oh, you want to make a thing about that? And then coming up with a funny idea about that. That's what I'm good at. And so in, let's say 2 years ago, I was so overwhelmed. My company was growing, my company was doing well, and yet I was drowning, and I was done. And actually, a company showed up asking about purchasing our company, and I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that, because I can't do this anymore. And through the process of trying to sell the company, and we got all the way to a term sheet and everything, I had joined an entrepreneurial support group, and I had met I had worked with a few consultants, and I had really just tapped all of the mentors and people in my life that I need to figure out, why is this? I seem to be successful, yet I feel like I'm the worst at this. And in many ways I was. There were several things that I was being the worst at. And I can say for sure now, even in COVID, even in all of this madness, I mean, we're just so much more of a stable business than we have ever been. I'm doing what I'm good at. Other people are doing what they're good at. It's just a whole different way of life, and I feel so much better now. So I'm sorry I go rambling on and on.
No, I feel like that's a very like common thing for those who start businesses. I was actually kind of curious, was there a specific first or second hire that you kind of prioritized to kind of help as once you figured it all out?
No, I mean, I did it all wrong. I mean, I don't know what I did. I mean, people just I've always, I was working with someone as a freelancer, and then it was like, oh, I have like lots of work for you. And then it's like, oh, you're just here every day. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, you work here now. And then later it was, hiring a bunch of people. I will say that I wish a lot sooner I had either had a partner or an employee who was purely like an operations person. And I think that that's actually an extremely rare person. I don't know if it's more rare than like a creative leader, but it's really rare. And I was really lucky to finally kind of run into that person a couple years ago now. So that's been just transformative. I mean, just somebody who, and the problem is it takes a kind of a different, they have to be creative and they have to be problem solvers, but they also just have to be like, where is this process getting broken? Oh, it's getting broken here. This is what we have to do to fix that. And that type of person, the person who can build that and the person who can run that are actually kind of two different people. So I found someone who could build and run it for a while. So it's been good.
So does that kind of go to like, if, you know, what would you say was one of your major mishaps? Because everyone has maybe something they wish they had done or had not done or learned from that they could have avoided if they had known.
Where do I start? Where do I begin? No. Yeah, I think that covers it. I wish that I had known that there were people who think as high level on business problems as I do on creative problems, and that I needed one of those to be in my business. I wish that I had known what that looked like. I didn't give it the credit it deserved. Like the idea of an MBA was like, well, who needs that? Like, don't you understand? Like, and then, you know, people who were in finance and business administration were always like what they talked about was boring to me. I didn't realize that was because I just it's not my thing, but it's super important. I was just thinking, oh, that's what, okay, you know, what importance is that? But those tiny, seemingly tiny things to someone like me are like, oh, you mean having someone whose job it is just to like collect, like having an org chart actually could be helpful. Like, you know, there are things that I had to learn from these people.
That's good.
So
so is there anything that you would say that really kind of, you know, you're starting off small and, you know, now you're the largest video production company in Delaware. There's Snowball, right? You start with a little tiny snowball and it kind of grows into this big, huge snowball that, you know, that really makes your company what it is. Was there anything you did that kind of, you could think of that propelled that growth?
yeah, for me, I would say probably in every business, if you like, I had to take every job as an opportunity to do something great, even if the job seemed boring, or even if the client seemed difficult, or even if because you never know where that thing's going to come from. And also you just have to care. I think those two things together. So some of the biggest contracts I have now came from some little thing that at the time might not have seemed important to someone, but I just really gave it all the attention that I could and tried to make it really, really good. And I think for a long time, you know, I always want our customers to be delighted, like much happier with the product than we are. Because we're just secretly, I mean, between us, like we are never happy with the product. We're almost never like what has come out. It's not good enough. It's never good enough. And that's okay. If it's not good enough to us, but it's like way more than good enough for the customer, then I think that's how that works. It's not good. I don't know if it's good for our psychology, but it's good for the work. So
I feel like that's how all creative and artists are. So I would say, you know, I feel like you are creative, and I feel like as someone who has a creative business, you've given a lot of great advice on, you know, how you've started this company and really made it successful, especially to maybe sometimes taking yourself out of the equation to make it successful. Is there any advice that you were given when you first started this business, or any advice you'd give to upcoming business owners that would really you find to be like probably your strongest guiding point?
Yeah. So here's one. If you don't have any customers yet, I'm a big fan of using pro bono to gain yourself a foothold in a community, but you have to do it strategically and you have to do it on your own terms, and that's the important thing here. Particularly with creative work, but creative work is a broad concept. There's a lot of things are creative work. Volunteering is not really the word. So when I came to Delaware, I had clients in Atlanta, web design and development clients. I didn't have any video clients. And the first thing I did was I asked the friend that I had made, what's the coolest nonprofit in Delaware? And he knew everything about everyone in Delaware. And he said, you should check out this place, the Challenge Program, on the 7th Street Peninsula. And so I went and checked it out, and indeed it was really cool. And I said, hey, I know how to do these things. I know how to do web design. I know how to do web development. I'm a video production person. Do you guys need any help? And they said, well, actually, yeah, we're redoing our website and a video would be great. And that day, they said, oh, and one person who's helping us, he's not really on our board, but he's sort of on our board, is Rich Rowe, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years, from House Industries. And House Industries, for those who don't know, and if you're in Delaware and you don't know who House Industries is, shame on you. They're definitely the coolest thing around Delaware, in that like their typefaces are in the New Yorker, they're a type foundry. But anyway, so I'm now working with House Industries on a project for the coolest nonprofit in Delaware. Down the road, I've ended up getting a lot of work from that. I'm on the board of Challenge Program now. But I didn't just show up and say, hey, like, I'll give you some of my hours. I came and said, I would like to do something specific for you. And I really recommend that, on your own terms, find a place. And because as the person who's donating pro bono, you should set the terms of what you're going to make for them and do your best work. Don't just do what they ask you to, particularly not when you're doing it pro bono. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that would be my biggest recommendation.
I think that's great advice, especially for those who are really, starting a business and, wanting to find out, getting those clients. I think that's an awesome advice. So I just wanted to, that was all my questions. And I think you really did a great job of helping share your story and get some really good advice out there. And I wanted to thank you again for chatting with us today. I know I'm really excited about our upcoming Wednesday webinar on producing in-house, literally, videos worth watching. So those who are tuning in
not from your in-laws' guest room.
Yes, not from your in-laws' guest room. So those who are tuning in on Facebook, we really hope that you join us on Wednesday's call. You can actually register at the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce website by going to their events calendar. And that, again, is at Wednesday at 11 a.m. And again, Zach will be our host for that webinar, and you're going to be learning some really great content pieces for producing in-house content and great virtual events that are engaging. And those who have tuned in, I'm going to be giving you guys 50% off registration with Short Order 2020, very cool lower third code here. So use the promo code Short Order 2020 for 50% off registration for Wednesday, June 10th webinar at 11 a.m. with Zach, who will be joining us again. And we really appreciate your time. Zach is a chamber member and he's done some great work with the chamber. So we really appreciate all of the work that you guys do with us and sitting here chatting with us today and getting your story out. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. And we hope to see you on Wednesday's webinar. Thank you, Zach. And thank you for all of your great advice today.